The Chicago Bears are continuing their search to add depth and potential to the defensive side of the ball, this time with signing Power Echols, a linebacker out of North Carolina. We're going to discuss it all and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bears Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bears news and content.
What's going on, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. I'm the host there, Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go and get into this content for today, y'all. The Chicago Bears have signed Power Echols, a linebacker, 6 foot, 225 pounds. He's 22 years old, out of North Carolina as an undrafted free agent. Now, what does this guy bring? When you look at the draft conversation around Power Echols, it shows a lot of potential. Right now, there's some tweener ability there, which is going to bring some concerns for Bears fans because we know kind of when you are undersized linebacker, you kind of have more of an uphill battle, right? But let's be clear, we've seen the Bears sign undersized linebackers before that end up actually making the squad. Now, in no way am I saying that, right? I like to make sure that I clear all these UFDAs with the potential that they could bring to the team, right? Power Echols, when you look at it, his tenacity and the aggressiveness that he showcases is really what made the Bears interested in him. He excels in coverage, right? He plays with a lot of pop. He really does that. He has really great instincts, especially in coverage. Now, some of the questions when it comes around to him is his technique as a tackler, right? That's one of the biggest knocks on him coming into the draft process was that he doesn't have necessarily the best technique. Now, that is a huge concern, especially at this level of football. You want players with technique. But when you look at it, if you're trusting your coaching staff, and yet all these UDFAs are not necessarily to come in and try to all of a sudden change the direction of the Chicago Bears. It's about adding potential and taking a look at what they could potentially bring and what they could develop. It's basically giving the first crack at developing those prospects. When you look at his 4th years at UNC, right? He had over 100 tackles twice. That's in 2022 and 23. Had 76 tackles last year. And then when you look at the passes deflected, really excelled that, again, in coverage. 6 passes deflected last year, 1 interception. He had at least 1 interception of each of his 4 years in college. He had a half a sack last year, 2 sacks in 2022, which is the most in his collegiate career. So, the questions about the ability to get to the quarterback and things like that are valid, and there's some concerns there. But then when you look at the other things, right, that when you come into it, he's versatile. He's explosive. He can play a lot of different linebacker sets. Also, how you line him up could really be determined upon that as well. If you play him on clear running, downs as well, that may be where you can get the most out of him. He's a hybrid defender. He can do a lot when it comes down to it. That was at the college level. The question is, how much of that could possibly carry over to the NFL level? And that's why you have him here as an undrafted free agent, right? When you look at him against the run, though, the way that he has the sideline-to-sideline speed is huge. It's allowed him to cover ground really well and be really effective in that run game. And that's why I said a path for him to get on the field for the Chicago Bears is going to come down to on those clear running downs. If he gets an opportunity and he plays well, specifically in training camp and in preseason, if he makes it that far into the process, right? He identifies the rush lanes really, really well, which, again, when you're looking at players at this level, again, you're looking at them more so being depth pieces at the most, right? Or developmental pieces to see what you can work on them with. But the IQ, if you have somebody that already has pretty good discipline and IQ in a facet of the game, you can build off of that, right? And that's where you're hoping that he can do. The way that he squares up his body against opposing linemen is really good when it comes down to it as well. Even though he is a little bit undersized as a linebacker in this league, the way that he does use that lower center of gravity to get past offensive linemen at times, there's definitely something that you can work with there, right? He changes direction really great, right? And with intent, and he's efficient in that as well. He does not waste movements on the football field. And in coverage, that's where his athleticism really shines in coverage when it comes down to it. And I mean, when you look at him and what the Bears have done with linebacker in this draft, there are more guys that you're kind of looking at that. Like the way that he operates in space, right, and the way that his decision making that he shows in space, it puts him in a position to attack. Now, the thing that, like I said, was one of the knocks on him is his tackling technique, right? A lot of arm tackles there, which brings concern, especially if one of your best attributes is playing in coverage. Arm tackles there aren't going to get it done, right? So you gotta read that. In zone defenses, though, where he understands how to drop and position himself in zone defenses are really good. The question is Dennis Allen going to do that enough, right? Like if we ran the scheme that we ran last year, I could see him kind of maybe having a little bit of an angle on that. But the Bears are going to go to more man coverage this year. They're going to blitz more often, right? And so that's going to be the thing when it comes down to. But if you look at his eyes, he has really good instinct of looking at where the ball is going and keeping his eyes on the player with the ball. The 4 interceptions, the 7 pass breakups, and that type of thing. It really does. That's over 2 years. It really does point to him being a really good decision maker in that when it comes down to it. And he really identifies route concepts really well. That's the thing, right? If he's going to make it here, because he is undersized, even though he does have some power and some strength there, it's going to come down to does that IQ, is that what really kind of gives him the jump start? You're looking at, of course, special teams and making it, and where that reading ability can maybe pay off pretty well for him, as well as the other things that he can do. But coverage is where he has really great awareness at. So this is a smart football player. The IQ that he has here is good. When asked to blitz as well, there are times where he's shown some promise there, right? Like I said, on clear running down, sometimes in coverage, if you're going to use him in coverage, on blitzing, he's penetrated the backfield at a decent rate, not a great rate there. His quick first step does allow him to take advantage of offensive linemen in that, and he does create putting pressure on quarterbacks. He just doesn't always get the sack number, and creating pressure could really, be a good thing for him here, right? But the thing that was a big concern for him is that how will his skill set fit into an NFL where you have to do a multitude of varying different things. And while he's shown a little bit of ability there, right, the hybrid type of player that he is, the hybrid defenses that he's played in, it leaves a lot of room for improvement for him, especially if he's left out there on an island in isolation. And that's where it's not really going to, it could be ugly for him, right? But the instincts that he has there, right? The fact that he does have really good IQ, especially in running game, and understanding that in zone coverages, he's pretty solid as well there, right? The floor, that's the question that you really want to look at when you're reviewing UDFAs, is what's the floor, right? And I think the floor for him is a special team, right? A special teams contributor where he can be really good at that special teams level. But how much more can you get of that? And that comes down to the coaching staff, how they identify him, how they work with him. And that's the most important thing, is how it comes down to that. When you look at a lot of his draft, tape and things like that, and profiles that they've done on him, he got lifted as somebody that's going to be scheme specific. And that's a thing that could be a death knell or can be a benefit for you, depending on the system that your head coach runs. So if the scheme really fits him, then you could see him maybe produce solidly for him. If he has to kind of learn and adapt to different schemes that don't necessarily fit his skill set the best and his natural kind of abilities, that's where it's going to be a little bit ugly for you. So Echols, I should say, a solid UDFA here who has some upside, but again, as with all these UDFAs, nothing's for certain, but it is an interesting guy to take a look at and see what he can turn into, especially in training camp, as you're trying to take bites of the apples and see if you got anything special. And we'll see if the Bears end up doing that. But thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you guys are following us at Shy Bears Central. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, ChicagoBearsCentral@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-242-9336. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related, but that's thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, Chi-Town up, but Bear down. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.